world is changing beneath our feet as we speak. It's not the technology that closes the deal or has the customer fill their shopping cart. It's what you put into the technology. It's the content. When technology helps facilitate and scale what a marketer can do to create a more powerful experience, that's when it's really great. So I want to start with this idea of how do we actually do this? How do we actually, if there's a lot of talk these days about us becoming media companies. What is meant by the fact that we need to become media companies is not that we need to market like media companies. It is that we need to treat content and the process of content as a function in the business in as strategic a way as they do.
We are simply not going to do any better with adding robots or AI or more technology to our mix without slowing down our decision-making and creativity process. And so, to the extent that content marketers can slow down, focus on quality, focus on creating quality, high-quality customer experiences, they'll do much better than trying to constantly keep up with the race of content. And that applies for marketing, not just content marketing.
What is weekend marketing?
It's
obviously not the opposite of discontent marketing.
That is correct.
All right.
That is correct. But no, you will find most of them out there are quite discontented.
Are they?
Yes.
Is that just because they're marketers?
That's right. Well, that's why they're here. Reboot this a little bit because the idea of content and what we do with content is truly about one thing, and that is building an audience. The content is merely a bridge. Content itself is valueless unless it does one thing, and that is build an audience, actually develop a relationship with an audience, has the audience do something that we want them to do. And so I want to reboot this idea of return on investment and talk a little bit about return on audience, because that is a new idea with content marketing that I hope can reboot something that may be struggling in your organization. What if we're wrong? Like, what if I'm wrong about all this value? What if I'm wrong about the competency? I'm wrong about the cash. I'm wrong about all this stuff. All those things, those are outliers that are happening. What if we're wrong? CEO came up to me and said, yeah, I don't believe in the content marketing. I don't believe that we can do this. I don't believe that audience, I don't believe that's our business. I said, great, don't. I said, but are you creating more content or less content this year? And they said, well, we're creating more. 200% more if you believe Forrester. Every year we're creating more and more content. I said, great, that's a cost, right? Independent of how you look at it, it's a cost. Yes, it's a cost. Doesn't it even then just make sense to get your arms around that cost? To create a strategy and a vision for content in your organization, even if the only benefit is to get your arms around the cost that you're already spending? And he said, yes. And I said, great. Now we agree that a content marketing strategy is important. Now all we're differing on is all the different kinds of value that it can provide. And so let's talk about it. Let's experiment. Let's work. Let's actually try and invent the disaster. One of my favorite examples of all time of this is what happened in the early 1900s in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. And of course, this is the Wright brothers and their first experimental plane flights. And when this happened in Kitty Hawk, you would have thought that the world exploded. You would have thought that it would have been an amazing thing. Like everybody would go, oh my God, this is amazing, we have to do this. But it didn't. We had our heads so wrapped around that human flight was absolutely impossible. It was 3 years. It wasn't that they kept it a secret, but it was 3 years after they did their first test flight in Kitty Hawk that the New York Times had an article where there was a guy interviewed who was a hot air balloonist who was asked, is there any possibility of human flight ever? And he said, I think there's some interesting experiments going on in Kitty Hawk. So work quietly. as we work through this, working quietly through all of the things we're doing. And as you go forward from these days and into the days beyond and really figure out how content's going to affect your business, I hope we'll all go quietly and invent the disaster together. Thank you so much for having me today. Really appreciate it.